The bartender slid me a napkin and said, "Keep acting like you don't speak Greek. Don't react to what they're saying about you." I looked up from my beer to see him wiping down the bar with deliberate slowness, his eyes flicking toward the corner booth where 3 men sat drinking whiskey. One of them had a scar running from his eyebrow to his jawline. The other 2 looked like they lifted cars for fun. I picked up the napkin casually and read what he'd scribbled in Greek. "They think you're FBI, planning something bad. Play stupid tourist." My blood went cold. I was FBI, but nobody in this dive bar in Queens was supposed to know that. I'd been working undercover for 6 months trying to infiltrate a Greek organized crime family, and my cover was supposed to be solid. Just another third-generation Greek-American who'd lost touch with his heritage and didn't speak the language. I'd spent months pretending not to understand when people spoke Greek around me at the gym, at the coffee shop, in the very bar where I sat now. The bartender moved away to serve someone else, and I forced myself to take another sip of beer like nothing had changed. Like I hadn't just been told that 3 dangerous men were discussing how to deal with what they thought was a federal agent. In Greek, the man with the scar said to his friends, "We need to handle this tonight. Can't have feds sniffing around the warehouse. Boss said to make it look like a robbery gone wrong." My hand tightened on the beer bottle, but I kept my expression blank, bored even. Just a regular guy watching a baseball game on the TV above the bar. The second man, the one built like a refrigerator, responded in Greek, "How do we know for sure he's FBI? Maybe Dimitri's just paranoid." Scarface laughed without humor. "Dimitri's never wrong about these things. He says the guy's been asking too many questions at the gym about shipping schedules. Plus, his background check came back too clean. Nobody's that clean unless someone scrubbed their history." They were talking about me. Had to be. I'd been going to Olympus Fitness for 3 months, carefully building relationships with low-level guys in the organization. I'd asked questions, but I thought I'd been subtle. Apparently not subtle enough. The third man, who had a thick neck and hands like baseball mitts, said in Greek, "So what's the plan? We grab him when he leaves here?" "Too many witnesses," Scarface replied. "We follow him home. Do it there. Clean, quiet." I needed to get out of this bar without looking like I understood every word they'd just said. But I also needed to not walk into an ambush at my apartment. I pulled out my phone and typed a text to my handler. "Cover blown. 3 hostiles planning to follow me home. Need extraction." I hit send and took another casual sip of beer, laughing at something on the TV, even though I had no idea what was happening in the game. My phone buzzed. Handler's response, "Extraction team 20 minutes out. Keep playing dumb. Exit through kitchen if you can." The bartender came back and leaned in close, pretending to wipe the bar near me. In English, with a thick accent, he said, "You need something else? Another beer, maybe?" I shook my head. "Nah, I'm good. Actually, can I use your bathroom?" He pointed toward the back. "Through the kitchen, past the storage room." His eyes met mine for just a second, and I saw the message there. He was giving me an out. I stood up slowly, left cash on the bar, and walked toward the back like I had all the time in the world. Behind me, I heard Scarface say in Greek, "He's moving. Petros, go check that he's actually going to the bathroom and not trying to run." Footsteps followed me. I pushed through the kitchen door and saw 2 line cooks working over hot stoves. The bathroom door was to the left, but straight ahead I could see a back exit with an alarm bar. If I ran for it, Petros would know something was up. If I went to the bathroom, I'd be trapped. I headed for the bathroom and pushed the door open. It was a single stall, cramped and dirty. I stood at the urinal and counted to 30, listening to Petros's heavy breathing on the other side of the door. He was waiting to make sure I came back out. I flushed, washed my hands, and opened the door. Petros was leaning against the wall, blocking the path back to the bar. He smiled at me, all teeth and no warmth. In English, with a heavy accent, he said, "You having good time tonight?" "Yeah, man. Just watching the game." I moved to step past him, but he didn't budge. "You come here often?" "I no see you before." "First time. Friend recommended it." I kept my voice friendly, casual. He studied my face for a long moment, and I could see him trying to decide if I was worth the trouble. Finally, he stepped aside. "You enjoy rest of your night." I walked back through the kitchen, forcing myself not to look at the back exit. Behind me, I heard Petros speaking into his phone in Greek. "He's coming back to the bar. Looks clean. We'll take him when he leaves." I slid back onto my bar stool and picked up my beer, which was now warm. The bartender caught my eye and gave the tiniest shake of his head. "Don't leave yet." The extraction team wasn't here. The 3 men in the corner booth were watching me now, not even trying to hide it. Scarface raised his whiskey glass in my direction with a cold smile. On the TV, the baseball game went to commercial. A beer ad played, showing people laughing at a beach party. My phone buzzed. "Extraction team delayed. Traffic accident on Queens Boulevard. 30 more minutes." 30 minutes. I had to stay in this bar with 3 men planning to kill me for 30 more minutes without showing any sign that I understood what they were saying. The bartender brought me a fresh beer without asking. "On the house," he said in English. "You look like you need it." I nodded thanks and took a drink. My mind was racing through options. I had my service weapon in an ankle holster, but if I pulled it in here, innocent people could get hurt. The bar was crowded now, filling up with the after-work crowd, lawyers and office workers mixing with neighborhood regulars. Scarface stood up from the booth and walked toward me. Every muscle in my body tensed, but I kept my posture relaxed, slouched against the bar like I had no cares in the world. He sat down on the stool next to mine and ordered an ouzo. When the bartender brought it, Scarface turned to me and said in English, "You like this place? The beer here?" "Yeah, it's good." I gestured at the TV. "Good for watching games." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You Greek? You look Greek. My grandparents were, but I don't really know much about it. I shrugged. Just American, I guess. Ah, that's too bad. Lose the culture, you know? He switched to Greek and said to the bartender, Another round for my new friend here. The bartender poured another beer for me and refilled Scarface's ouzo. Scarface continued in Greek, speaking to the bartender but watching my face. This one's definitely FBI. Look at his posture. Look at how he's sitting with his back to the wall, eyes on the exits. That's training. I took a drink of the new beer and laughed at something on TV, giving no indication I understood. The bartender responded in Greek. You sure? He seems like regular guy to me. Dimitri's sure. That's enough for me. Scarface drained his ouzo and stood up. In English, he said to me, You have good night. Be careful going home. Queens can be dangerous at night. Thanks, man. You too. He walked back to his booth and the three men started talking in low voices, still in Greek. I caught fragments. Follow him at distance. 2 cars. Make it quick. My phone buzzed again. Extraction team 15 minutes out. Black SUV will pull up to front entrance. We'll handle the tail. 15 more minutes. The bartender came over and spoke to me in English. You want something to eat? Kitchen closes soon. I understood what he was really saying. Stay longer. Buy more time. Yeah, sure, what's good? Moussaka is best. I bring you. He disappeared into the kitchen, and I was alone at the bar with my warm beer and the knowledge that 3 men were planning the details of my murder. A woman in a business suit sat down 2 stools over and ordered a glass of wine. She was in her 30s, tired-looking, scrolling through her phone. An innocent person who had no idea she was drinking next to someone who might not make it through the night. The bartender brought out a plate of moussaka that smelled incredible. I suddenly realized I hadn't eaten since breakfast, too nervous about tonight's surveillance work. I dug in, trying to look like someone enjoying their dinner and not someone calculating exit strategies and sightlines. The 3 men in the booth were getting restless. I could see them checking their watches, looking toward the door. They wanted me to leave so they could make their move. I ate slowly, methodically, buying time with every bite. A group of college kids came in loud and laughing, crowding around the bar. The noise level went up significantly. Good. More witnesses, more confusion if things went sideways. My phone buzzed. Extraction team 5 minutes out. When you see the black SUV, move fast. We'll have backup units blocking the street. I finished the moussaka and wiped my mouth with a napkin. The bartender came over and said in English, Was good? You like it? Best I've had in a long time. He smiled slightly. In Greek, he said quietly, May God protect you tonight, friend. I gave no reaction to the Greek, just pulled out my wallet to pay. As I counted out bills, he leaned in and whispered in English, Back exit is unlocked if you need it. I left a generous tip and stood up from the bar stool, stretching like someone who'd been sitting too long. Through the window, I could see a black SUV pulling up to the curb. The 3 men in the booth stood up too, preparing to follow me out. This was it. I walked toward the front door at a normal pace. Not too fast, not too slow. Just a regular guy heading home after dinner and a few beers. Behind me, I heard Scarface say in Greek, Petros, you take your car. Tony, you're with me. We box him in at his apartment. I pushed through the front door and immediately the back door of the black SUV flew open. Federal agent, get in! My handler, Agent Sarah Mitchell, was in the driver's seat. I dove into the back seat as tires squealed. Through the rear window, I saw the 3 men burst out of the bar, confusion on their faces as our SUV peeled away from the curb. Scarface was shouting into his phone, probably calling their boss to report that I'd just been extracted by other federal agents, confirming I was exactly what they'd suspected. 2 backup units blocked the street behind us, preventing the men from following. We made it 3 blocks before I finally exhaled. You okay? Sarah asked, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. Yeah, that was too close. How'd they make you? I shook my head. I don't know. I was careful. Never spoke Greek. Never showed any recognition when people spoke it around me. Well, someone in that organization is smarter than we thought. We're pulling you out completely. Cover's burned. The reality of that hit me hard. 6 months of work, gone. All the relationships I'd built, the trust I'd earned, meaningless now. We'd gotten close to the top of the organization, close to the kind of evidence that could bring down the whole operation. And now, I was back to square one. What about the bartender? I asked. He helped me. They'll know he warned me. Sarah nodded. We're sending a team back to get him. He'll need protection too. At the FBI field office, I spent 4 hours in debriefing, going over every detail of the night and trying to figure out where I'd slipped up. We reviewed surveillance footage from the gym, analyzed every conversation I'd had, looked for the moment when I'd given myself away. It was Agent Rodriguez who figured it out. Here, he said, pausing the video. 3 weeks ago at the gym. You're on the treadmill, headphones in. But watch your face when that guy behind you starts talking to his friend in Greek. I watched myself on the grainy security footage. A guy on the treadmill behind me was telling his friend about his wife cheating on him. And for just a second, just a fraction of a second, my expression changed. Sympathy. Understanding. I'd reacted to what he was saying. That's it, I said quietly. That's when they knew. It's subtle, Rodriguez said. Most people wouldn't catch it. But if someone was already suspicious, already watching closely. Dimitri, I finished. The one who ordered the hit. He must have been there, or someone who reports to him was there. Sarah pulled up a file on her computer. Dimitri Stavros. 3rd generation Greek-American like you, actually. Runs the whole Queen's operation. Very smart. Very careful. If he spotted that tell, he'd never confront you directly. He'd just set up the hit and eliminate the problem. So what now? I asked. Now we regroup. Your cover's blown, but we got some good intelligence from your 6 months inside. We know about the warehouse, the shipping routes, the key players. We'll build a new case. Bring in new agents. What happens to me? New assignment. New city, probably. We'll let things cool down here for a while. I nodded, feeling the weight of failure sitting heavy in my chest. 6 months of my life, and I'd blown it with one unguarded expression. The next morning, I was called into the special agent in charge's office. S.A.C. Morrison was a stern woman in her 50s who'd worked her way up from field agent to running the New York office. She gestured for me to sit. The bartender's name is Nikos Papadopoulos, she said without preamble. 63 years old, owned that bar for 30 years. Came here from Greece in 1985. She pulled up his file on her computer. Turns out he's been feeding us information about the Stavros organization for the past 5 years. Low-level stuff mostly. Names, faces, snippets of conversation. Nothing that could compromise his safety. Why would he do that? I asked. His nephew was killed by the organization 10 years ago. Kid got involved in some street-level drug dealing, tried to skim some profits. They made an example of him. Nikos has been looking for revenge ever since, but he's smart enough to know he can't take them down himself. She turned the monitor toward me. Last night, he called his handler and said he wanted to go all in. He's willing to wear a wire, testify in court, whatever it takes. Says seeing them plan to kill you made him realize he couldn't sit on the sidelines anymore. I leaned back in my chair. They'll kill him. We'll put him in witness protection after the trial. New identity, new location, the whole program. But he says he doesn't care about the risk. He wants to see Dimitri Stavros in prison before he dies. Morrison closed the file. We want you to be his handler. You've got the language skills. You understand the culture. And he specifically asked for you. Said any man who could keep his cool like you did last night is someone he can trust. I thought about Nikos, standing behind that bar for 30 years, serving drinks to the men who killed his nephew, biding his time and waiting for his chance. When do I start? Tomorrow. We're moving him to a safe house in New Jersey. You'll do the prep work for the wire, coordinate with the prosecutors, keep him alive long enough to testify. Over the next 3 months, I spent almost every day with Nikos at the safe house. We'd sit at his kitchen table drinking Greek coffee while he told me stories about the organization, who reported to whom, which businesses were fronts, where they kept their records. He had decades of observations stored in his sharp mind, small details that most people wouldn't notice, but that built into a comprehensive picture of how the operation worked. The key is patience, he told me one afternoon in Greek. We'd switched to speaking Greek together, dropping the pretense. Americans always want everything fast, fast, fast. But the Greeks, we understand that revenge is a dish best served cold. I waited 10 years for this moment. You miss the bar? I asked. He shrugged. I miss the regularity of it. Same people, same conversations, same routine. But I don't miss watching criminals pretend to be respectable businessmen. Don't miss serving drinks to the men who killed Andreas. Andreas was his nephew. Nikos kept a photo of him on the refrigerator in the safe house. A young man with a bright smile, maybe 20 years old in the picture. Tell me about him, I said. Nikos' face softened. He was a good kid who made bad choices. His father, my brother, died when Andreas was 15. No male role model, you know? He fell in with wrong crowd. Started selling drugs for the organization when he was 19. He sipped his coffee. I tried to warn him. Told him these men were dangerous, that they didn't tolerate mistakes. He said he was being careful. Said he just needed to make enough money to go to college, then he'd get out. What happened? He got greedy. Started cutting the product and pocketing the difference. Thought no one would notice. But Dimitri Stavros notices everything. Nikos' voice went hard. They found him in an alley in Astoria. Beat him to death with baseball bats. Left him there like garbage. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Nikos said, that's when I decided. I would destroy these men, no matter how long it took. So I started watching, listening, remembering, waiting for the right moment. And the moment is now? The moment is now, he confirmed. The wire equipment was sophisticated, nearly invisible when properly placed. We practiced for hours, making sure Nikos could move naturally without betraying its presence. He was going back to work at his bar, would be wearing the wire during business hours, capturing conversations from the organization members who frequented his establishment. They're going to be suspicious, Agent Mitchell warned during one of our planning sessions. They know you helped their target escape. They'll be watching you carefully. Nikos smiled grimly. Let them watch. I've been playing the friendly bartender for 30 years. I can do it a while longer. The first day back at the bar, I sat in the surveillance van 2 blocks away, listening to the feed from Nikos' wire. My job was to monitor the conversations, alert the tactical team if anything went wrong, and document anything useful for the prosecution. Nikos opened the bar at 4 p.m. like always. The first customers were regulars, talking about sports and complaining about their jobs. Normal bar conversation. Then at 6:30 p.m., Petros walked in, the same one who'd followed me to the bathroom that night. My whole body tensed as I listened to the feed. In Greek, Petros said, Nikos, my friend, good to see you. Petros, what can I get you? Ouzo, and information. There was a pause. I could picture Nikos pouring the drink, his face calm and neutral. What kind of information? Nikos asked carefully. About the man who was here that night, the FBI agent. You warned him, didn't you? I don't know what you mean. Don't play stupid. We found the napkin you gave him, the one with the warning written in Greek. How did you know he could read it? My heart was pounding. This was already going sideways. In the van, Agent Mitchell was on the phone with the tactical team, ready to move in if needed. Nikos said calmly, I didn't know he could read it. I just saw you three watching him like wolves. Figured he was in some kind of trouble. I wrote the note in Greek because I thought maybe he was Greek, might understand enough to get the message. Why would you care about some stranger? Because I run a bar, not a murder scene. I don't want bodies in my establishment. Bad for business. There was a long silence. Then Petros laughed. Always the businessman, eh, Nikos? Fair enough. But Dimitri wants to talk to you. Tomorrow, 3 p.m., at the warehouse. I'll be there, Nikos said evenly. After Petros left, Nikos stayed calm, serving other customers for another 3 hours before closing. When he got back to the safe house that night, I was waiting. That was dangerous, I said. Petros suspects you. Petros always suspects everyone. It's his job. Nikos poured himself a drink. Tomorrow at the warehouse is what matters. That's where Dimitri will be, where the real conversations happen. That's what we need. It's too risky. They might search you, find the wire. They might, Nikos agreed. But I didn't wait 10 years to back out now. The next day, we had a tactical team positioned around the warehouse in Astoria. Nikos wore the wire hidden in his belt buckle, nearly impossible to detect even with a thorough pat-down. I sat in the surveillance van again, listening as Nikos walked into the warehouse at exactly 3 p.m. Nikos, thank you for coming. That was Dimitri Stavros' voice. I'd heard it on previous surveillance recordings, but never this clear. Smooth, educated, with just a trace of an accent. Of course, Dimitri. You asked to see me. We have a problem. The FBI has been sniffing around my operation. They sent an undercover agent to my gym, to my businesses, even to your bar. I heard about that. Bad business. Yes, very bad. But what concerns me more is how he escaped. Someone warned him. Someone who knew enough to write a message in Greek. I explained this to Petros. I saw your men watching the guy like he was prey. I didn't want trouble in my bar. Come now, Nikos. We've known each other for how long? 20 years? You can be honest with me. There was a pause. When Nikos spoke again, his voice was steady. 30 years. I've owned the bar for 30 years. You started coming in when you were just a punk kid working for your uncle. Exactly. 30 years of friendship. So I need you to understand something very clearly. Dimitri's voice went cold. If I find out you're working with the FBI, if I find out you've been feeding them information, it won't be quick. You'll have a lot of time to regret your choices before the end. Do you understand me? I understand. Good. Now I have a proposition for you. I know the FBI will approach you, try to flip you. They always do after something like this. When they do, I want you to say yes. I want you to become my double agent. In the van, Agent Mitchell and I looked at each other in shock. Tell them whatever they want to hear, Dimitri continued. Wear a wire if they ask, but feed them false information. Lead them away from my real operations. In exchange, I'll make you a wealthy man. $50,000 now. Another $50,000 when this is over. That's generous? Nikos said carefully. It's practical. I take care of people who are loyal to me. You know this. There was the sound of a briefcase opening. This is the first payment. Take it, Nikos. Be smart. In the van, Mitchell was already on the phone with the prosecutor. We've got him. We've got Dimitri Stavros on tape attempting to obstruct a federal investigation and bribing a witness. That's 10 years minimum. But I was focused on the wire feed. Nikos hadn't responded yet to Dimitri's offer. The silence stretched out. Well, Dimitri prompted. What do you say? When Nikos spoke, his voice was different, harder, colder. I say you killed my nephew 10 years ago. Another pause. Then Dimitri said, Andreas? That junkie kid who was stealing from me? That junkie kid was 20 years old. He made a mistake. You beat him to death in an alley and left him like trash. He stole from me. There are consequences for that. Yes, there are consequences, Nikos agreed. I've been waiting 10 years to show you what consequences look like. I could hear the sound of movement. A scuffle. Dimitri's voice rose. You're wearing a wire. I should have known. I should have searched you. Too late now. Everything you've said is on tape. The FBI has been listening to every word. There was a crash, the sound of furniture breaking. Mitchell shouted into her radio, Tactical team, move in now! Suspect is hostile! I grabbed my weapon and jumped out of the van, running toward the warehouse with 3 other agents. We burst through the door to find Dimitri holding a gun to Nikos' head. Stay back! Dimitri shouted. Stay back or I kill him right now! The tactical team had their weapons trained on Dimitri, red dots dancing on his chest. The lead agent, Carson, spoke calmly. There's no way out of this. Put down the weapon. I put down the weapon. I spend the rest of my life in prison. You think I'm stupid? You pull that trigger. You die here today. Multiple officers. Justified shooting. Is that really how you want this to end? Dimitri's hand was shaking slightly. The gun pressed against Nikos' temple. Nikos himself was eerily calm, staring straight ahead. Dimitri, I said, stepping forward slowly. It's over. We have everything on tape. The bribery, the obstruction, the admission about Andreas. Fighting this just makes it worse. Who are you? Dimitri asked. Another FBI agent? I'm the guy who was in the bar that night, the one you tried to have killed. Recognition dawned in Dimitri's eyes. The undercover. You speak Greek. I speak Greek. I heard everything your men said about me, and I've been hearing everything you've said today. I took another step closer. You're smart, Dmitri. Smarter than most criminals I've dealt with. You build a good organization. You were careful, but you made one mistake. What's that? You underestimated an old man with nothing left to lose. Nikos has been feeding us information for 5 years. Low-level stuff at first, but it all built up. And today, you gave us everything we needed to put you away for the rest of your life. Dmitri's hand was shaking more now. You're lying. He only started helping you after that night. Am I? I gestured to Nikos. Ask him yourself. Nikos spoke for the first time since the scuffle. I've been waiting 10 years for this moment, Dmitri. 10 years of watching you walk around like you're untouchable, like you can kill a 20-year-old kid and face no consequences. Today, the consequences catch up. Dmitri's face crumbled, the realization that his whole world was collapsing. His hand lowered slightly, the gun moving away from Nikos' head. That's when Carson made his move. He closed the distance in 2 quick steps and grabbed Dmitri's wrist, twisting it until the gun fell to the floor. 2 other agents tackled Dmitri, forcing him down and cuffing his hands behind his back. Nikos stumbled away from the chaos, and I caught him, steadying him. Are you okay? He nodded, but I could see his hands shaking now that the adrenaline was wearing off. It's over. We got him. Back at the field office, the celebration was subdued but genuine. We'd taken down the head of a major criminal organization with solid evidence that would hold up in any court. Dmitri Stavros was going away for a very long time. Nikos sat in the debriefing room, looking exhausted but satisfied. What happens now? He asked. Now we prepare for trial, SAC Morrison explained. You'll be our star witness. After that, witness protection. New name, new city, new life. I don't need a new life. I just needed justice for Andreas. You'll have it. I promise you that. The trial took place 8 months later. I sat in the courtroom every day, watching as the prosecution methodically presented their case. The wire recordings were damning. Dmitri attempting to bribe Nikos, admitting to ordering Andreas's murder, discussing various illegal operations. The defense tried to claim entrapment, argued that Nikos had provoked Dmitri into making incriminating statements, but the evidence was too solid. The jury came back after 4 days of deliberation, guilty on all counts. Dmitri Stavros was sentenced to 40 years in federal prison. He'd be 93 years old if he lived long enough to see release. Nikos cried when the sentence was read. 10 years of patience, 10 years of planning, and finally, justice for his nephew. After the trial, I helped Nikos relocate through the witness protection program. They set him up with a new identity in Arizona, far from the Greek community in Queens, far from anyone who might recognize him or want revenge. Will you be okay? I asked as we said goodbye at the airport. I'll be fine. I lived 63 years before this. I can live another 20 in peace. He shook my hand. Thank you for believing me, for trusting me. You saved my life that night in the bar. It's me who should be thanking you. We saved each other, I think. He smiled. Take care of yourself, Agent. And next time you go undercover, practice your poker face more. That's what gave you away, you know. That little moment of sympathy at the gym. I'll remember that. I watched him walk through security, an old man with a new name heading to a new life. He'd sacrificed everything for revenge and justice, and I hoped he'd find some peace in Arizona. 6 months later, I got a postcard from Phoenix. Just a few words. The weather here is terrible, but I sleep well at night. I kept that postcard on my desk as a reminder. A reminder of Nikos' patience and dedication. A reminder of how one small mistake, one unguarded expression can change everything. A reminder that sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who look harmless, who smile and pour your drinks and wait for exactly the right moment to strike. I requested a transfer after the trial. Too many memories in New York, too many close calls. They sent me to the Seattle office where I worked white-collar crime for 2 years. Safer, more boring, exactly what I needed. Then one day, I got called into the special agent in charge's office. There was a new assignment, deep undercover in a Russian organized crime family in Portland. Would last at least a year. High risk, high reward. Do you speak Russian? The SAC asked. I thought about that night in the bar, about Nikos' warning, about the price of pretending not to understand what people are saying about you. No, I said honestly. I don't speak a word of Russian. Good. That makes the cover easier. We need someone with experience in organized crime. Someone who knows how to blend in and keep their cool under pressure. I took the assignment. But this time, I made sure I actually didn't understand the language. No more close calls, no more unguarded expressions. Just genuine ignorance and careful observation. Sometimes the best cover is the simplest one, actually being who you claim to be. 3 years later, I'm still working undercover cases. Different cities, different organizations, different languages I don't speak. The work is dangerous and exhausting, and sometimes I wonder if it's worth the constant stress. Then I think about Andreas, the 20-year-old kid who died in an alley because he made a mistake. I think about Nikos, who spent 10 years of his life planning his revenge with the patience of someone who truly understood that justice delayed is not justice denied. I think about all the other victims of organized crime who never get their day in court, who die nameless and forgotten while their killers live free. That's why I do this job. Not for the adrenaline or the glory, but for the Andreases and the Nikoses of the world, for the people who deserve better than what they got. Last month, I got another postcard from Phoenix. Nikos is 70 now, working at a small diner and playing chess with retired people at the senior center. He says he's teaching them Greek phrases, which makes me smile. Once a bartender, always a bartender, sharing his culture with anyone who will listen. The postcard ends with, "I hear you're still doing the work. Be careful out there. Remember, it's not about hiding who you are. It's about being patient enough to reveal the truth at exactly the right moment." I keep that postcard on my desk too, next to the first one. A reminder from an old man who outsmarted an entire criminal organization through nothing but patience and careful observation. Sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a gun or a badge. Sometimes it's just the willingness to wait for the perfect moment to speak. And that's something worth remembering. Whether you're an undercover agent or just someone sitting at a bar, pretending not to understand the language everyone thinks you don't speak.